Say if this was your family, you probably wouldn't give all the details. But you notice the Bible pretty much spells it all out, everything that was going on there. And it shows Judah's sons were evil, they were wicked, yet Judah assumed Shelah would also die if given to Tamar. In other words, instead of his own sons, he was looking at Tamar saying, she's the problem. And like Simeon and Levi, Judah was likely more shaped by his time in Syria than by the Lord's purposes for Israel in an altar life or a relational life with God in Bethel. You know, it helps us understand again, why was God saying to Jacob, return back to Bethel? Because there was a great demonic influence in Syria. And this is what the children of Israel were growing up in. This is what Reuben was growing up in. This is what Simeon was growing up in. This is what Levi was growing up in. This is what Judah was growing up in. Pretty much the ones that were not growing up in it were Joseph and eventually Benjamin. And so we see, this is why we looked at last week, the Bible even tells us that Joseph was the son of Jacob's old age. The Bible teaches us that Joseph grew up with a different dad, in other words, than the father that the older sons knew. Right? Because he's maturing, he's changing, God's developing him and as he's growing in God. But it's also important to understand, because you look and you say, why were they evil? These are the children of Israel, and even for Er and Onan, that they're growing up, their grandfather is Jacob, is Israel. How could they be wicked or how could they be evil? Because it tells us what happens with the influence of the world, the demonic influence of the world, what can happen even to our children if we're not training them in the things of the Lord. If we're not giving them direction, if we're not showing them, look, this is the way that you should go. Yes, there are these influences. Yes, there are these things out there, but don't give in to them. Don't listen to these things. So I want you to see, they're not perfect people. And they can also be influenced by the things of the world and by the spirit of this age. And so we got to understand, we got to call it what it is. It's the demonic influence of the world that they were around when Jacob was working for Laban, those 14 plus years for Rachel. And again, we've looked at, he was reaping what he had been sowing, and we're still seeing this happening here. So the Bible does not present Judah as an upright man, but as flawed. And Genesis 38 records his sin with Tamar, his daughter-in-law, and his sons, added further shame to his household, and how the Lord put Judah's first two sons to death because of their wickedness. And to fulfill her right of securing her family line, what does Tamar do? Tamar disguises herself as a temple prostitute, and Judah is so good, he seeks her out to buy her services. He doesn't know that it's Tamar because she's covering her face, and what does he do? He gives her a pledge that he could utilize her services as a temple prostitute.